The 6-2 Giants are on a bye week, which means there's no Blue Rush preview this week, but that doesn't mean that we aren't going to pump out some content. Let's bring in Paul Schwartz, your favorite Giants beat writer for the New York Post, and two-time Super Bowl champ Lawrence Tynes, because it's time to hand out some Blue Rush superlatives. All right, fellas, you ready to get into this?
Let's go. Let's go.
All right, we got 5 categories. First one, most likely to get paid. Who wants to go first on Tynes? Go first.
This is an easy one. You can't play in this league without a quarterback. And Daniel Jones has earned the right to get an extension through 8 games. Now, will that happen in the bye week? I don't think it will. They want to see more. But Daniel Jones has put together 5 comeback wins for this team. They've only won 6 games, so you guys can figure out the math there. Daniel Jones deserves to be paid. This regime does not want to go backwards, right? Do you go get another quarterback? Do you draft a young guy? They're going to go backwards. This team's going to end up with 10 to 12 wins this season. So I don't think they want to go backwards. Daniel Jones, I'm thinking somewhere in the line of like what Tannehill did a few years ago in Tennessee. You give him 5 years, $150 million, something like that, and let him play his football because he's earned it. His numbers are comparable to what Tannehill's done without A.J. Brown, without Jarvis Landry, all those guys he's played with. So you give Daniel some weapons, he's going to earn that money that we give him.
All right, you say DJ deserves that Tannehill money. Paul, what saith you?
Lawrence, how did you do in school in reading comprehension?
All A's, Paul. All A's.
All A's, I'm sure, right? Straight. Every field goal was straight down the middle. I get it.
Journalism. I made an A.
Oh boy. Most likely to be paid, to get paid, not who do I think will get paid. Daniel Jones is not the most likely to get paid.
Yes, he is. You cannot play this game without a quarterback, Paul, and they're not going to go backwards. This team is not going backwards.
Period. I guarantee. Here's what I guarantee. I'm going to say I got 2 players who are more likely to get paid, especially first. Dexter Lawrence is going to get paid. I think they will give him an extension. And someone like Julian Love, he is going to be an unrestricted free agent. They want to bring him back. So I will do all but guarantee that those guys will get paid before Daniel Jones. I think Saquon Barkley very likely will get paid before Daniel Jones. So look, I think Dexter Lawrence is signed through next year. They want to extend him. It'll be smart to do that. Julian Love is a guy they want to bring back. So I think they'll get that done. And I think they could even do Saquon first. So will Daniel Jones have a new contract with the Giants? I would think so, but he's not the most likely. The most likely of those other guys, I put Dexter Lawrence number 1.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Saquon Barkley on this one, and people are going to hate me, but it's going to be from another team. I think, back in 2018, Saquon, 1,300-plus yards with 11 touchdowns, and then he had a couple seasons where he was hurt, and then you throw in what he's doing this year. He's on pace to rush for over 1,600 yards. He is square with the Giants organization after this year. Joe Shane talked about how he's a culture guy. They want to extend him. They're going to want to have him around for a long time. But there are other GMs and other offenses around this league who's like, I am going to throw money at 2-6. And I don't think that's that big of a surprise to any of us. But let's move on to the next category, biggest surprise.
I love it.
Biggest surprise. Paul, you start this one. Who's been your biggest surprise this season? Go.
Well, I mean, my biggest surprise is Dexter Lawrence. Okay, and look, he's a starter. He's not. Look, wait. Don't roll the eyes over there, kicker. Don't roll.
He's
the
the
eyes.
17th pick of the draft, Paul. What do you mean surprise?
He had 9 sacks his first 3 years in the league. Okay, he's got 4 sacks now. He's on pace for maybe 10. I did not see that coming. As I was going to say before I was interrupted with the eye roll, Dexter Lawrence is a good player. We know that. But Dexter Lawrence has taken it to a different level. I mean, you could call him the defensive MVP of this team. That reason, he's a surprise to me. O'Shane Ximines is a guy who's a surprise to me too, because he was buried last year. But Dexter, who I thought was a good player, is playing great. And that to me is a surprise, a pleasant surprise.
He even threw a runner-up in there at times.
Yeah, he did. And the 17th pick of the draft can never be the surprise of a football team. They were drafted there because they're good players. Fabian Moreau, the guy we claimed off waivers who was cut by the Houston Texans, guys, he was cut by the Falcons, cut by the Texans. The Texans gave him $1 million guaranteed this year and cut him. He finds his way to New York. He plays on the practice squad. We elevate him to the active roster. He is playing about as well as anyone is on that defense, especially in the secondary. Fabian Monroe, guys, for vet minimum at $1 million, is the surprise player of this defense. No question. And for a little bonus, I'll put in Jihad Ward. Obviously, another guy who signed for nothing. These guys didn't have any expectations. The 17th pick of the draft, Dexter Lawrence had expectations and should be playing at this level.
Well, if you're saying that, then you're going to give me some kickback on mine then, because I'm great. I'm giving it to Andrew Thomas. I understand he was drafted high as well, but if you think about it, remember back his rookie year, a league high 57 pressures, gave up 10 sacks. Now out of 537 snaps this season, he hasn't gave up a sack and has only gave up 2 penalties. The man is one of the highest graded offensive tackles in the league and one of the highest graded players, period. Louis Riddick has come out and has apologized for what he said about AT back in the day. The man has just been an anchor on that left side, and he's allowed Daniel Jones to cook. All right, let's move on to the next one. Who is the most likely to succeed? And it has to be a rookie or a new free agent. Tynes, you take this one.
Most likely to succeed in this for this team is obviously Kayvon Thibodeau. His personality, his play, his effort. He plays with what Giants fans want to see. We've all seen the plays in Jacksonville where he's chasing down running backs from the backside 50 yards down the field. Now, the numbers aren't there, and that's kind of something we want to see in the second half of the season. We have to see sacks, right? He's getting the pressures. He's just got to get home, and he will. He's learning the NFL game. His personality is infectious. His teammates love him. He was drafted very, very high, and he fits right into the, dare I say, this is the new age Michael Strahan for the Giants football team. But Kayvon Thibodeau, most likely to succeed.
All right, Paul?
Well, I will not disagree with Lawrence as far as the player, but the personality, I would not put him as most likely to succeed. I have no issue with his personality, but I've seen a little bit of roughness around the edges that I wouldn't say he is the most likely to succeed, because I think he can be likely to maybe implode a little bit. The other day in Seattle when the Giants lost, right? They're not used to losing. And Kayvon, under his breath in the locker room, was kind of critiquing the questions that he heard being asked of other players. That's Kayvon, right? He's a big personality. And if things don't go well, I think he could implode a little bit with the media and maybe even with the fans. I'm not saying I don't like Kayvon or I think that will happen. I just think it's a possibility. My most likely to succeed is Daniel Bellinger, because he's a terrific player. He is what Giants fans love from their tight ends. He's not Mark Bavaro. Okay, I'm not saying that. Maybe more like Kevin Boss, maybe a little tougher Kevin Boss, maybe not the pure pass catcher yet, but he's quiet. He's a good-looking guy. He scores touchdowns. He's a good player. That unfortunate eye injury, is going to keep him out a while, and that's too bad. But I think as far as what Giants fans want from like their cowboy kind of, not Dallas cowboy, he's like an old-fashioned cowboy kind of guy. You know what I mean? He's quiet, but he's got a good personality. I like talking to him. Looks like a really good player. Really, really likely to succeed in New York.
I have to go with your biggest surprise, Tynes. I'm going to go with Fabian Moreau on this one because, like you said, he started off with the practice squad with the New York Giants. But go to NFL.com. They have a list on there of the top 10 shutdown corners in the NFL, and he is in the top 10 shutdown corners in the NFL. He is playing above and beyond what we thought of him. He made the game-saving tackle, or was in the game-saving tackle against Jacksonville. And if he doesn't get another contract here, there's going to be another team out there that brings him in and makes him into a guaranteed or a full-time CB2. Let's move on.
Real quick, can I add something right there real quick, Brandon and Paul? If you guys remember when we signed him, I said, look, a change of scenery can be good for a guy. Remember, we all said, Fabian Monroe, whoop-de-doo, right?
Yep.
Well, this is a perfect example of a player getting confidence through coaching in Wink Martindale. They give this guy the confidence. He has the measurables. He was a third-round pick by Washington. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Don't always judge a book by its cover. He has come here and played exceptionally well. So hopefully they can get him. He's a guy maybe you could see an extension for here during the bye week.
Absolutely.
And real quick, kudos to the player personnel department, right? We always talk about the
Very
draft.
good.
This is the pro personnel department as identifying a lot of these guys, Nick McLeod, Fabian Moreau, these guys, Jalen Smith.
McLeod.
Pro personnel department doesn't get a lot of love. They did a great job this year.
These guys have been far from a disappointment, and that segues us to our number 4 category. The biggest disappointment this year, Paul.
Easy. It's a matter of how you want easy. It's Kadarius Toney and or Kenny Golladay. I mean, easy. Maybe you say we're not going to do Kadarius Toney because he's not here anymore. He was the bigger disappointment to me than Golladay because he's a young guy. I was expecting more from him. Zero, hamstrings, nonsense. Not great in the locker room. Better, but not great. Kenny Galladay's a huge disappointment because of the money. Kenny Golladay tries, and he tried to block. He got hurt blocking. He just not very good right now. Maybe he can give him something in the second half. But, those guys are huge surprises. And I'll give you a bonus big disappointment, Azeez Ojulari, right? And it's because of injury, but injuries are disappointing. Yeah. The guy's played 2 games, 60 snaps all year. He's a pretty big disappointment. They need a lot from him once he comes off IR.
Paul took my guy, Tynes. So go ahead, go on in.
Well, I mentioned everybody.
I was going to say Azeez, but yeah, go ahead. Tynes.
Yeah, no, for a 6-2 team, there's not a lot, right? They've done well. They've played well up to this point. Obviously, mine is the guy who makes $916,000 per catch, $65,000 per yard, or $2.23 million per start. That's Kenny Golladay, guys. He's made over $35 million in just a year and a half on this football team. Those are the numbers. Think about that. $2.23 million per start. That's what he's made. 16 catches, 39 catches, 543 yards, 0 touchdowns, guys. But I think he can have a comeback in the second half of the season. That interview sparked a little bit of excitement for me last week, Paul, when you guys were talking to him and he had a little wry smile on his face thinking about the opportunities that are going to be there when he gets back from the bye. We got to get him the football. You got to throw him the ball. I hope Daniel can trust him. He is a contested catch guy. He's not necessarily going to be the guy who's going to create a ton of separation. So I'm looking forward to Kenny Golladay, making me look like a fool for calling him the biggest disappointment. But as of right now, this is a no-brainer. It's Kenny Golladay.
At $2.3 million per start, that's why week 2 he said I should be out there regardless. I should be out there collecting my 2.3. But no,
that's where he is because he's only started 16 games, right? So
and Ty, I agree with you on that one. His comeback could come from down the field balls. I mean, just remember when they were bringing him in, that highlight tape, that free agent highlight tape that people were sharing on social media were all deep ball, contested 50-50 balls that he went up and grabbed. Not with the body, but up through with extending his arms and playing like a big boy. So he is somebody to keep an eye on in the second half of this season. Last but not least, here goes the big award, your first half MVP. Who started? I can't remember who started the last one. Someone just jump in and go. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, well, look, I'm shocked already that Lawrence Tynes hasn't said most likely to get paid is Graham Gano. Most likely to
he already got paid.
Graham Gano. Yeah, pay him again. First half MVP, Graham Gano, right? Okay, so this is an upset here that we haven't had a Graham Gano, Academy Award sweep here. Yeah, it's coming. Yeah. First half MVP, Andrew Thomas. Look, Saquon is certainly in the running, obviously. Dexter Lawrence is in the running. The 2 safeties never miss a snap. Daniel has played terrific with all those comebacks. But to me, it's Andrew Thomas. He's the best player on the team right now. As you said, Pro Football Focus, which is not the be-all, end-all, but it's one thing to look at, has him as the best offensive tackle in the league. He is quiet. He is unassuming. He has not missed one snap all year. They can leave him out there. The offensive line is better. He is terrific. He is the best tackle out of his draft class, and that's a damn good draft class. He didn't start, as he said when he was as a rookie, and he was struggling. I run my own race. Well, he was not ahead at the quarter pole. He is leading the race right now. He's my first half MVP.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. And Paul, we've had him on the Blue Rush podcast before. Very humble guy, great guy. Yeah. Same thing. This is pretty easy, guys. It's Saquon and Andrew Thomas, two of the best players on this football team. Saquon's heading towards 2,000 scrimmage yards, which he had his rookie year. He's playing lights out. He's on pace for just crazy numbers. The contract thing will take care of itself with him, like you guys mentioned. Here's a stat I found on Andrew Thomas that may blow your mind. He's played 2,429 snaps, guys. He only has 3 holding calls. That is discipline.
Yeah.
That is all pro. He has 0 this year.
Smart.
0 holding calls. The only penalty against him this season is an illegal formation against the Packers. And I actually don't even think that's his fault. But Andrew Thomas, obviously, as he goes, the offense goes. He protects Daniel's blind side, and he is on a mission. I mean, what a great story. Obviously, he was picked high, but the way he started to where he is now, easily Andrew Thomas and Saquon can share this award, and we'll have Paul deliver it next week on Wednesday.
Well,
I'd be glad to.
I was going to share it with number 826, Daniel Barkley, but I have to give this one to Mike Kafka. You know, Paul, I just go back to when we did the post-practice report back in at minicamp. And that practice, when you're seeing Saquon motioning out to the number 1 receiver, you're seeing bunch and stack formations, you're seeing different formations, spread offense. You just saw an offense 2.0. And from what we've been used to with the Giants offense, this guy has just come in and done more with less. Now, his press conferences and stuff, super boring. But in terms of his play calling and his creation, it's been so fun to watch. And you've seen the growth of a Daniel Jones and a Saquon Barkley and an Andrew Thomas. It's because of the guy that's putting them in position to be special and to make plays. So Mike Kafka, with the ball ahead, he's doing his thing. And that's going to be my my MVP right there. To close this out, you guys, really quick, give us something to close this out.
Well, two games they supposed to win coming out of the bye. This team has a gauntlet after that, right? So they're going to get tested by winning football teams, and it's going to be a huge test. They're going to have to come out and play even better than they did in the first half of this season to make the playoffs. I know that sounds crazy with 6 wins right now, but guys, there's not a lot of where you look at and say, oh my gosh, they should win this game, because they've barely won the games they've won. I expect them to win, more than 10 games, but they've got to take care of business right out of the bye against Houston. That is not a layup football game. I know their record's not great, but having said that, they're going to have to come in and get ready. This is crunch time now.
Paul.
I would say, look what Joe Shane did and did not do at the trade deadline, right? He traded away Kadarius Toney the week before, and he did nothing. That shows you. He looks at this team at 6-2, and he's not saying, my God, we're much better than I thought we were. We got to load up. We got to go for it. He doesn't think so. It was very interesting when he mentioned, I'm so thrilled that we're 6-2. But you have to remember, you have to look at it objectively. One of those games we were down 17-3. He's thrilled with the record. He thinks the roster needs a lot of work. And, I don't think anyone will be shocked if they kind of teeter a little bit in the second half of this year. Look, fans don't want to hear that, but I just think they realize there's a lot of work to be done, and they were not going to be goaded into, we're 6-2, we're going for it this year. They're going to win as many games as they can, but they're loading up for next year with the cap and all these other things. So, hold on. 6-2 is great, but let's hold on and see, this team's still flawed in a lot of ways.
Thanks, fellas. And Giants fans, we want to see or hear what you guys think of our Blue Rush Superlatives. So make sure you get down and dirty in the comments below. And make sure you check out the Blue Rush podcast. Our next show will be previewing the Giants-Texans matchup. For Paul Schwartz, Lawrence Tynes, I'm Brendan London. Thanks for watching.